Hey everyone, we are here again, and it's another episode of Am.A-line Chronicles Presents slash Collections Presents Community Talks. We're working on the name of that too, by the way. But anyway, our guest tonight is the lovely Lauren Baker. She is a music therapist practitioner, among other things. She's also my best friend. And she has an amazing story to share with her career as well as just her life in general. So thank you for joining us to interview.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So first thing I'm going to ask Lauren is to have her explain to us all what she does as a music therapist and the benefits of music therapy in healthcare.
Yeah. So for everyone, I'm sorry I'm using my phone, but I would rather start you off with the textbook version. AMTA, which is the American Music Therapy Association, gave the definition of music therapy. And so music therapy is the clinical and evidence-based use of music interventions and accomplish individualized goals within a therapeutic relationship by a credentialed professional who has completed an approved music therapy program. It can be used to address physical, emotional, cognitive, and spiritual. So it's a holistic view. So basically, what all those words mean together, it's the clinical and evidence holistic view of using therapy practices with music. Music is our medium as a form of the ways to have our clients and our patients reach their personal goals. So music therapy is more, instead of being very technical and very it's a time frame, some music therapy practitioners or clinicians do use a very time-based depending on their population. But the population I currently, I serve is long-term care, elderly care, and especially in hospice. Hospice is my particular area of study, and I love hospice work for the simple fact that it's a way to open that space for that end of life scenario, because a lot of times a lot of people want to focus on early childhood or they focus on the adolescent part of life. End of life is very not is one of those areas that's kind of like unconventional to talk about,
Very
and that
taboo.
Right, that very taboo gray area where people talk about death and having that meaning of what death means. And so music therapy plays a very crucial role in that.
Absolutely. And see, we have that in common, which it didn't turn out that way on purpose. Nobody was originally going into death care industry or healthcare industry on purpose. That wasn't our goal. I mean, obviously I'm in fashion. That's really where my passion lies, but funeral service, death care industry, it's a crucial industry that nobody thinks about. So the fact that you do music therapy within hospice care, I mean, that's tremendous because you're helping people transition at the end of their life and their families, aiding them in some kind of comfort because it's cognitive based, which again is not widely recognized. So you don't even understand the benefits of what you're providing.
Right. And a lot of people can kind of mistake music therapy for entertainment, because from the unprofessionalized eye, when you look at us come into a room, we come in with like a bunch of instruments. Most of us are mobile, using a guitar. Some use piano. So we're very trained on instruments, and so a lot of people walk in the room and they're like, "Oh, that's music. That's music therapy. I can turn on a radio and it's music therapy." No, it's very structured, clinical, evidence-based practices that we learn. So all the interventions that you may see walking into the room with a music therapist and a patient or a client, you're seeing very thought out processes, especially in hospice care, during the end of life series, where a lot of people have a lot of anxiety, have a lot of depression. There's so many emotions happening, and for patients who can't really express that themselves at their end of life, services. It's music therapy is a great way for them to reminisce on things that they used to be able to do, maybe be able to share things with their loved ones that they can't really verbalize themselves because they're not able to fully verbalize or don't really know the words to say. So we get to be that cool, like, kind of bridge to let them know, to give comfort to the family, let them know that your loved ones care about you, they're thinking about you. And also letting the patients know that there's some comfort, that it's okay, that we're not just another person coming in and prodding and picking on them because they're at the end of life and they're stuck in a bed. This is their time to really process their own end of life cycles.
So in the fact that we've been talking about end of life processes and everything, and you taking and I guess the word is like promoting your own care in a way, for the client or the patient that you're treating. What is the highlight for you when you are going through treatment and going through the process?
I would say the highlight for me in watching the music therapy process with my patients is knowing that I'm not sympathizing their situation, I'm empathizing with them. Like, I'm a very people pleaser. And so in a way where I never want to offend. And a lot of times in end of life circumstances, long-term care, these patients have been put in a place or a home and their family members are putting them there for their safety and like letting them get the extra care. But now they don't have the pleasure of family members coming in whenever they want, or maybe they don't come as often as they should. So it's that kind of like loneliness and, separation that like now someone who's a stranger, me, the music therapist, trying to come in there and kind of, I'm supposed to be this place of comfort. You have to give that familiarity with your patients. So I love that part. I love that part that even although it's my job for me to keep them comfortable, for me to provide them a service, I can also be personable enough to know that we can have that respect and boundary that I can empathize their situation. Especially for me, going into hospice long-term care wasn't the goal. I was not going to be there. I wanted to be in schools, working with kids. That was my niche. But it's something about that connection because I personally have dealt with it with hospice, and I've been there with my own grandmother and seeing that process. So it gives me a place of like empathizing, letting them know I know what it feels like to be a family member of them going through their process. So I may not be them and know like exactly what they're going through, but I can definitely empathize as trying to figure out a way to share.
Right.
So
creating that personal connection.
Yeah.
Always a key.
Yeah.
That's what we keep coming back to also within, just building the brand. Because it's all about connections, personal connections. And then not just personal, but building upon that to go even larger scale with like industries and so forth and so on. What do you hope to accomplish with your music and in your treatments?
Well, hoping to accomplish it normally within music therapy is depending on the patient. And the patients set their own goals, which I think is great. It's not just like, when you're in school and they're like, you have a criteria, or even if you're a teacher, you have a certain curriculum that you have to go through. And it's like, they have to be adhere to go, you have to be an A to go to B. So music therapy is not like that. It's very holistic. And even in other populations, like the music therapists that do work in schools, it's each individualized goals for them. So if I walk in the room and their goal is that they want comfort, or they want to lower their anxiety, or they just want to express themselves through music, I'm there to help facilitate that. That is my main purpose, is to facilitate it. So my personal accomplishments actually get to be taken away, which is really cool. Because I would rather know, like, how do I serve you? Like, how do you want this service to work for you? The benefits that end up coming back to me, which I really think is great, is I get to kind of learn and grow and learn maybe how it would feel to be in that situation. So my goal, like most of my personal goals, I tend to be like, okay, I know this patient has this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure they're comfortable. So I may go in thinking I'm going to focus on a goal, but the patients ultimately get to tell me what they want. Yeah. Which is kind of cool. It takes pressure off of me.
For sure. For sure. Yes. But then it's also like, so when I sit with a family, I have to not only put myself in the position, like you said, but I'm also treating them as if they're my own family. Because in the end, I mean, we are all family, whether we want to recognize it or not. No matter where we come from, we are. So definitely that's important.
Yeah, and I would maybe hopefully think that that's with fashion too. Like maybe when you're doing like a custom design for someone, is knowing like what's going to be best for them, and not necessarily like a global market, like a big market.
Yeah. You want to get to know what somebody wants, what they like, what would look best on them, but you also, as the professional that they came to for the advice, you want to provide them with the best information that you have. So with a custom outfit, I would say, all right, well, have you tried this style? Have you tried this fit? Because I think it would be really good on you, but marrying what I'm advising and then what you actually like, I would provide a mixture of those things for sure.
Yeah. And so it's kind of cool because music therapy is a lot like that too, because when you walk into a room, and so normally how the process works with a music therapist getting their clients or patients, depending on where they're working, either a long-term care facility or within like an inpatient unit hospice.
So we got cut off in the middle of everything. So where exactly were we? We were talking about marrying things and going through you get a blueprint.
Yeah, you get a blueprint of the patient, and they give you like certain things, like this person only likes these two genres of music. So, me as the music therapist, I put a couple of songs together thinking of like, okay, I can go in with these, and so let's just say they like blues, right? So you can go in there and give them a little bit of like Ella Fitzgerald or something like that. And as you're talking to the patient, and if your patient is verbal, because I have had nonverbal patients, the patient can tell you, like, you're reminiscing, they start to reminisce, and they start to be like, oh, I remember going dancing out in, out in the country or something like that, or going to, in Florida, I had a lot of New Yorkers. So it was very interesting. Yes. So they talked about a lot about going to shows and going to like big band concerts. So then I got to flip the whole genre on his head. I was like, oh, so we're going to play some Frank Sinatra and things like that. So it became really cool that you go in thinking you're going to have this one thing, and the patient actually kind of evolves and like brings you into their world, which is, I almost feel like it's kind of across the board with what I would like to think most things get to do. If you bring in a little what you will want, and, collaborating with other people in the community helps you bring this like really awesome product or really awesome like goals to like show like, hey, look at what we've done together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the goal right there.
Yeah.
That is the goal. Oh my gosh. So, in speaking about community and, your overall position in life, what impact do you want to have in your community as a music therapist and as Lauren Baker?
I would personally have to say, so me personally, as like, taking outside the clinician part, me personally, I've always wanted to serve. And my foundation comes from my faith. Mm-hmm. And so, and believing in God and just wanting to dedicate my life to doing something of service. Mm-hmm. And music was my God-given gift to me, with being able to play instruments, being able to sing. So I wanted to use that in my way. As much as there was a point there, I thought I wasn't going to do music anymore, but the Lord was like, no, you're doing it. You're doing it. So it was great. Music therapy became the greatest solution for me to understand how to really put this into service. And so I guess my greatest impact is I want to be of as great a service as I can for somebody else. Because in turn that it gives me worth. It gives me passion. Like it's really interesting because I tell people I work in hospice and then they look at me crazy and they're kind of like, oh my God, you're an angel, you're godsend. And it's like, no, but it is rewarding and fulfilling work. Like I love it for the simple fact that bereavement work and watching people go through that process and maybe something that I can say helps them to have, like, you know, it's not, that pain is never going to go away. As it's inevitable with the end of life process. Everyone's going to go through the end of life. It is a very hard topic to talk about, but really got into get that understanding of what it means to have a happy death. I know it's a very cliche term. A lot of people are like, what does that mean? But it really means it gives you the peace and comfort of how you personally want to end life, how you want to leave this earth. And I was really glad to be a part of, most of my patients' end of life process and just being there to help the families cope and help the patients cope with what's going to happen. For sure. And be okay with it.
For sure. Yeah. And, speaking of calling and, being faith-based and service-based, I mean, that's where I stand. I've known for a long time that I wanted to help people in however that may come, how it is. So now I have background with fashion initially and then going into, photography with children. And then going from there into funeral service and then being in funeral service for the past 3 years officially, other than my whole life. And then, really starting to understand that, God's purpose for me, not just in fashion or funeral service, is to provide a sense of community, one. Two, to make sure that we understand that we as people, especially now, we all are going through something that we can help one another through. And there are experiences that we're supposed to share with one another so that, hey, maybe my experience, it's not going to be the same as yours. Right. But at least I can tell you how I dealt with it so that you would know what you may or may not face and how to overcome that challenge. For sure.
It's very true. Yeah. And not everybody gets there, and it's really kind of, important for people like us and what our fields do, which sometimes, they're not as widely known, but I feel like sometimes people don't take in that factor that maybe somebody else's experience will also be a part of yours. Because I have had times where working in bereavement groups and working for some patient families that they're just not receptive to it. They're not receptive to what this can do, what the process is, and, they're feeling their emotions at that time, which is very valid. Like, you validate them, you give them what they need in that moment. But then later on, sometimes you do have those ones that come back and they're like, you know what? This was really something that I needed. Or maybe if their loved one wanted it, it's like, you know what? This isn't about me. This is about them at this point. So
just taking a step back.
Yeah.
Anyway, is there anything you would like to add?
I guess the only thing I guess I would like to add is letting people know as far as being a clinical music therapist and what does that mean. So the second half of that of the definition of music therapy talks about a board certified music therapist who has obtained a degree in it. So all music therapists who are practicing music therapists have all gone through, they have gone through at least a 4-year program if they went through undergrad, or a 2 or plus year more graduate program, which is what I've done to gain certification, and you do a 6-month internship, which means that we are clinically in the field before we ever get certified to do music therapy and sit before actual patients of our own. which means in our program, we don't just learn, obviously the fundamentals of music have to be there. But in order to do the therapy part and understand, we do have to study psychology. We have to study biology, anatomy. There is math involved. There's especially our music therapists who are neurological music therapists. There are music therapists that work with OT, which are occupational therapists, to help with gait training. So music therapy is a very good profession in order to help with multiple modalities. We are very holistic. And holistic meaning that we don't just focus on cognition, we also focus on emotional, spiritual, physical goals as well. So yeah, the whole gamut.
Well, so in going with that, you all are also the unspoken heroes. Seriously. I mean, again, I do praise nurses and doctors and everybody else in the health field right now, but definitely the people in the background that you don't think about. Mm-hmm. Just saying, there's a lot behind the whole field and industry that most people you just don't see, you don't know about, for sure.
Yeah,
and sure. I thank you for being a music therapist, because I don't know, I wouldn't be able to do it because we already know where my musical talent is. It's not negative, but it's definitely not up to par with yours.
Lies, I heard her saying, everybody. She can sing.
So we are actually going to have Lauren perform for us. She has a song that she has chosen to share with us all, and I am greatly appreciative that you joined us for our interview and that you are going to sing the song for us.
Yeah, of course. I mean, what's music therapists without their guitar? Of course. Okay. All right. So this song that I chose for today, I've used this song as a reflection. And especially in this time right now, amidst the pandemic and quarantine, and there's a lot of loss. So I know that there's a lot of hurting people, a lot of people who may not know where to put their thoughts to. So I hope that this song brings a little bit of peace. It's called Landslide, and it helps me just reflect on nature, maybe just where I would like to be, on the other side of that mountain. So here's Landslide. I took my love and I took it down. I climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills. For the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 oh. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. But the time makes you bolder, and children get older, and I'm getting older too. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I built my life time makes you bolder, and children get older. Oh, I'm getting older too. Yeah, I'm getting older too. So take this love and take it down. Oh, if you climb the mountain and you turn it around, and if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, where the landslide brought me down, and if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, well, maybe maybe